Welcome back. In this video, I want to focus only on the concept of how JSON objects are structured, okay? Therefore, I have this little class that I will need for this. This will be a data class, a very simple one that I'm going to call Potion. Okay, you don't need to write any of that code down. It's really just about the concept of understanding what JSON objects look like and how they are connected to objects inside of classes / objects inside of our Kotlin code, because objects are based on classes, right? We saw that. And now we have this data class, which is basically a very simplified class that just has properties. Okay, so our class Potion has this property called name, then another one called effect, and finally potency. Name and effect are strings and potency is an integer. So it could be any type, right? So then I'm creating 3 potions inside of my main function. One is a healing potion that has the name of healing potion, the effect of restoring health, and a potency of 50. Then I have an invisibility potion, which has the same name. Grants invisibility is the effect, and it has a potency of 40. And finally, we have a strength potion, which gives you strength because it, well, basically boosts strength and has a potency of 60. So now I have this list called Potion List, which is a list of healing potion, invisibility potion, and strength potion. So this list contains the data type of potion, okay, because this is our own data type that we created, and now we're storing it in there. So that makes it a little more complicated, and that's exactly what I need. Okay, I need you to understand how to display lists as well as objects inside of Kotlin and how to read such code. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at JSON code. So I just gave out the code that we would receive. So basically this potion list, I just gave it out as a JSON list. I converted it into a JSON file. Okay, so how JSON would display it. And in JSON, it would look like this. So you see we have these squared brackets. It's a little small. Let me zoom in. So we have these squared brackets here, and squared brackets in JSON, they indicate that what is inside of those squared brackets is a list. Okay, and we separate list items by a comma. Now objects are inside of curly brackets. So this here is object number 1 inside of my list. Now object number 1 has the name property and the healing potion value. So otherwise you could say it has the name value pair or the key value pair. So there is this pair, this is the key name, and associated to it is the healing potion. This is the name or the key effect, and not the name of the potion or the object itself, but the name of that key value pair key. Okay, so the key's name is effect and the value is restores health. So if you want to access the effect for this object, you could just ask for or pass the key, say, okay, this is my key, the effect. Now give me the value of that key, and that would be restores health. And it has a value of 50. Now this is an integer or an int. So you can store multiple different types. You can even have lists inside of objects that are inside of lists. So this is not limited to having a very complex structures, right? But in our case, we just have a list here. This is a list. Everything in there is a list. The list items are separated by a comma. So we have the items inside of those curly braces. And then we have a comma, then the next item, another comma, and then the last item. So after the last item, you don't need a comma anymore. And these are basically just the objects that we have inside of our list, which is the healing potion, the invisibility potion with its properties, and finally the strength potion also with its properties. So this now is a way for us to store our objects as a string. And because strings are very easy to send over because they have they require very little data, there's little overhead and everything. It's just really a few bytes, and you can pass that information very easily online or to a server, and you can at the same time also download strings very easily. And then inside of your application, you would define how a healing potion looks like. You would define how the effect is, what the potency of 50 means, and all of that. So the logic would be on your phone, but the data can be stored in the cloud. So it can be stored on a server. And that is basically the power of JSON, that it can have with very, very super little overhead, super little extra text, extra code or anything. It can store objects. Now we obviously need to understand what these objects are, but then that's where the documentation comes in. When we load data from the internet or when we upload data, we need to build our own documentation, so to speak, saying, hey, this is what the object structure is, this is what a class is built like, and so forth. So that is basically what I wanted to show you. And here you can see there are other types that you can convert this to. We could convert this to XML. We could convert this to YAML. So just to show you how XML is different, because I covered it, well, I mentioned it in the last video very, very briefly. I just wanted to quickly show you the general idea as to how XML is managing it. And it basically uses these brackets all the time. So it says object at position 0 has the name property that has the content of healing potion, then the effect property of restores health, and then the potency that sets the value to 50. So basically here we don't even know what a string is, what is a integer, so we could go ahead and use it our way. Here you can, at least to a degree, see that, okay, well, here we're using quotations and here we don't, so this is probably not a string. Well, yeah, it's probably not a string, it's probably something else, which in our case is specifically a int. So that's just so in case you ever see code like this. You can even see here at the top there is additional overhead where you see the XML keyword is there. It says which version it is. It says which encoding it uses. Basically, it says UTF-8, which contains a bunch of characters, like loads of characters that are available whenever you work with characters in general. Okay, so that was just to give you an idea what JSON objects look like, what a JSON list looks like. You could have a list of items inside of an object. So here, let's say we have another property which we call list of users. So who can use this thing, and then it could be another in quote and in brackets here, in squared brackets, could be, so who can use it? Only, let's say, the invisibility potion. Okay, let's use that here. So invisibility potion can only be used by rogues. Okay, so if you play any video games, you will see, okay, rogues can use that. Here, this could be anyone can use it. Okay, so all, and then boost strength, maybe only warriors can use it. Okay, so this one would be warrior. Maybe you have other classes in your project or game or whatever, and it could be warriors as well as tanks can use items or potions that boost their strength. So you can have lists inside of objects. You can have objects inside of lists. You can even have lists of objects inside of objects inside of lists. So this is not limited to our very simple structure that we built, but I just wanted to show you it with this simple structure before we go and use it for our maybe a little more complex structures later on in the course. Okay, I know this has been a longer video, but I really wanted to make sure that you really see how it works, how it's structured, and yeah, that will definitely help you with your future projects. So see you in the next video.